How childhood programming shapes adult behavior. Most of what you do as an adult was learned before you had words for it. Not taught directly, not explained, learned through repetition, through tone, through reactions, through what felt safe and what didn't. By the time you were old enough to think, your nervous system had already been trained. That training is still running, even now. Childhood programming isn't about memories. It's about patterns, how your body learned to respond. Before logic ever got involved, as a child, your brain wasn't asking, "Is this healthy?" It was asking, "What keeps me connected? What keeps me safe? What keeps me from being rejected?" Those answers shaped you, quietly, permanently, and you carried them forward. Children don't have the ability to leave. They adapt instead. If love was inconsistent, you learned to stay alert. If approval came with conditions, you learned to perform. If emotions were ignored or punished, you learned to suppress them. None of this was conscious. Your brain was doing its job. Survival first, understanding later, but the brain doesn't automatically update its rules. So the strategies that protected you at 6 may still be running at 30, even when they no longer serve you. This is why adulthood can feel confusing. You can logically know better and still react the same way. You can understand your behavior and still repeat it. Because childhood programming lives deeper than thought. It lives in the nervous system. Your nervous system learned patterns early. What anger sounds like, what love feels like, what silence means. If silence meant danger, your body still reacts to it. If raised voices meant conflict, your heart rate still spikes. If affection came and went, your brain still scans for signs of loss. These reactions are automatic. They happen before thought, before choice, before awareness. This is why people often say, "I don't know why that upset me so much." The answer is usually simple. Your body remembers something your mind doesn't. Childhood programming also shapes identity. Not who you are, but who you learned you were allowed to be. Some children learn, "I'm lovable when I'm helpful." Others learn, "I'm safe when I stay quiet." Some learn, "I matter when I achieve." Others learn, "I matter when I don't cause problems." These aren't beliefs you chose, they're roles you adapted into. And roles don't disappear just because you grow up. They follow you into work, into relationships, into how you treat yourself. This is why some adults struggle with rest, because rest once meant neglect. This is why some people over-explain, because misunderstanding once meant punishment. This is why some people tolerate too much, because leaving once felt impossible. Your brain is repeating what it learned worked, even if it hurts now. One of the most powerful childhood programs is how love was expressed. If love came with unpredictability, your brain learned to associate love with anxiety. If love required effort, you learned to overgive. If love was withheld, you learned to chase. As an adult, this shows up as attraction, not to what is healthy, but to what is familiar. Even if familiar feels painful. This is why stable relationships can feel boring, why calm can feel empty, why emotional intensity feels meaningful. Your brain isn't broken. It's following a script. Childhood programming also shapes how you handle conflict. If conflict led to rejection, you learn to avoid it. If conflict was explosive, you learn to brace. If conflict was never resolved, you learn to endure. As an adult, this becomes your default. You shut down. You overreact. You people please. Not because you want to, because your body learned how to survive it. This is also why logic fails in emotional moments. You can know you're safe and still feel threatened, because safety is not a thought. It's a sensation, and sensations are trained early. Another powerful imprint is how emotions were handled. If emotions were validated, your nervous system learned regulation. If emotions were ignored, your nervous system learned suppression. If emotions were punished, your nervous system learned fear. As an adult, this becomes difficulty naming feelings. Feeling overwhelmed by emotion, feeling disconnected from yourself. Not because you're weak, because your system never learned another way. The most important thing to understand is this: childhood programming is not a flaw. It's an adaptation. Your brain did what it had to do, but adaptation is not destiny. The brain is plastic, which means it can learn new patterns, but not through insight alone. Rewiring requires experience, repeated, corrective experience. Your nervous system must feel safety before it believes it. This takes time and patience and repetition. This is why healing feels slow, why change feels uncomfortable, why progress feels subtle. You're not just changing behavior, you're updating a system that's been running for decades. The first step is awareness. Not awareness as judgment, awareness as curiosity, not "what's wrong with me?" but "what did I learn?" When you ask that question, shame loosens its grip. The second step is regulation. You cannot change patterns from a state of overwhelm. Calm is not laziness. It is a prerequisite for change. Your nervous system must feel safe, enough to try something new. The third step is repetition. Small changes matter. Different responses matter. Pausing instead of reacting matters. Each time you choose differently, you weaken an old circuit and strengthen a new one. This is not dramatic, it's gradual, and that's why it works. Childhood programming fades when safety becomes familiar, when calm no longer feels suspicious, when stability no longer feels empty. That takes time, but it happens. You are not trapped by your past. You are shaped by it. And shape can be changed. Not through force, not through blame, but through understanding and consistent, gentle correction. If you've ever wondered why you react the way you do, why certain situations feel bigger than they should, why you struggle with things that seem easy for others, this is why. Your brain learned early, and it hasn't stopped learning yet. There's another layer to childhood programming that most people miss. It's not just what happened, it's what didn't happen. What you needed and didn't receive, what you waited for, what never came. The brain fills in those gaps. If reassurance was rare, your nervous system learned to stay alert. If affection was inconsistent, your body learned to scan for loss. If guidance was missing, you learned to rely only on yourself, not because you wanted to, because you had to. As a child, you didn't say, "This environment is shaping me." You adapted silently. You learned when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to be useful, when to disappear. Those lessons didn't vanish with age. They became reflexes. Now, as an adult, you may feel exhausted without knowing why. You may overthink interactions that seem small. You may feel responsible for other people's emotions. You may struggle to ask for help, even when you need it. These are not personality flaws. They are learned survival strategies. Another powerful imprint comes from how mistakes were handled. If mistakes led to shame, your nervous system learned fear. If mistakes led to punishment, your body learned tension. If mistakes were ignored, you learned to doubt yourself. As an adult, this becomes perfectionism, or avoidance, or chronic self-criticism. Not because you enjoy it, but because your brain learned that mistakes were dangerous, so it tries to prevent them at all costs. This is why some people freeze under pressure, why others over-prepare, why some never start at all. Your brain is still protecting the child, who once felt unsafe. Childhood programming also shapes how you experience success. If success brought attention that felt overwhelming, you may downplay achievements. If success brought approval that felt conditional, you may chase it endlessly. If success brought pressure, you may sabotage yourself before it arrives. Not consciously, automatically. Your nervous system learned what attention meant, and it responds accordingly. This is why growth can feel uncomfortable, why improvement can feel threatening, why stepping into a new version of yourself can trigger anxiety instead of excitement. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of unfamiliar safety. Reprogramming childhood patterns does not mean reliving the past. It means creating new experiences in the present. Experiences where your body learns, I am safe now. I am allowed to rest. I don't have to earn connection. I don't have to disappear. This happens slowly, through consistent boundaries, through regulated relationships, through moments where you respond differently and survive the discomfort. Each time you do this, your nervous system updates its expectations. It learns that the world is not what it once was, that you are not powerless anymore, that you have choice now, not perfect control, but enough. This is what healing actually looks like. Not dramatic breakthroughs, but quiet rewiring. And over time, those old childhood rules lose their authority, not because you fought them, but because you outgrew them. If this helped you understand yourself a little better, subscribe to Psychology Tapped. Next video, why your brain confuses familiar pain with love. Stay curious, stay patient, stay tapped.